Classes in session.
Rosie O'Donnell, welcome to Unlearn 16 Classes in Session. I can't begin to thank you enough for being here. I don't even know quite how this rolled into happening. It's been a bit of whirlwind, but
Well,
thank
there are people that I watch or listen to, whatever you want to, I consume TikTok wise, and you're one of them. I love your posts. I love how smart you are. I love you talking about Canadian politics that I don't even understand, but it makes me eager to learn.
right.
The way your system works up there, and so when you asked, you said nicely on the video, Rosie, would you do my podcast? I
Thank
said
you.
yes.
That's the Canadian in me. It's the
Yeah.
nicely part. Absolutely. Well, yeah, and I've been watching, I've watched you forever. I wasn't joking when I have a League of Their Own tattoo across my wrist. So I've been watching you forever, watching your talk show, watching you on The View, and then watching you like now come into, like, I follow your Twitter and come into all of these amazing political ideals. And that's what obviously inspires me.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, that was always a big thing in my family. I remember when my mother was alive, she died in 73, but
oh, wow.
she was always McGovern, and we went down to McGovern headquarters as a kid with my mom, I remember, and it was just pretty always we were a blue dog Democrat family. Like,
Right.
we were as Kennedy loving as the Irish families come, and
All of the Irish families.
yes, he's like the patron saint of all the Irish,
Ugh.
and it always was the reason that I decided to go into entertainment. I knew there was power in the medium, and I also knew that there would be a way to make social change and for the social good.
Wow. We like obviously I'm nowhere close to what you've accomplished, not even in the same hemisphere, but it's really interesting because when I started this, I mean I started TikTok, lockdown and life was crazy and everything like that. And I lip sync and I did those things. And then when I started talking about politics, I realized that is who I am. So I started driving that train, and I had some people from different political parties say, how about you come run? How about, we just had an election up here. Why don't you come run? And I really thought about it, and I thought everything that is real about me, everything that I believe in and I can fight for and I can articulate, I know for a fact it's going to be muted if I did that, if
Yes.
I stepped into that arena. Whereas here, I get to have amazing conversations with people like you, and maybe people are listening, and maybe it affects some change, and maybe they think just a little bit differently. And I think it's just so much more power. So,
It
I
is, it is powerful, and this new platform where people can carry you around in their pocket, and I never see anyone's eyes in public. I get to my pickup to pick up my daughter,
Hmm.
and I'm there early, and I see, do all the other parents get out and talk? No.
No.
Everybody's on their iPhone,
Right.
right? Everyone's checking their TikTok. And I miss that, but this new delivery platform has changed the way that we as humans relate to each other. And when you see that, like that divide, the kids that are, in their 20s, not being able to sort of get out of the game
Hmm.
because they had it their whole life. My daughter, who's on the spectrum, is completely connected to the iPad
Right.
in a way that I've never seen anyone before, unless it was in severe addiction, an
Right.
adult in severe addiction. And so, we're working with some therapists. We're trying to figure out how to have this be not such a do or die world. But sometimes she'll say to me, Mommy, I want to live in that world.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but that world is not available for living.
Wow. Wow. That's powerful statement, right?
Right, it's only available for playing. It's not
Hmm.
available for you can't you're never gonna be able to jump in there,
Yeah.
right? I hope to God she doesn't try a virtual reality headset, because I think we might lose her.
Right. I would expect it's a very safe space for her.
Totally, especially because, she's 8, she has really no interest in anything other than the game.
Mhm.
She reads, below her age level, but can sort of ascertain what's going on, but she has no like desire to chat with anyone than the guy standing next to her about going to dig up some Minecraft obsidian or whatever.
I don't understand Minecraft.
Neither do I, and I've tried.
Right. No, well, and it's fascinating this world we've created, and I think it's all just steps, right? It's interesting. We're on a podcast right now, and I'm explaining it to some older people. I'm like, explain it to my mom or my grandma wants to listen. I'm like, it's kind of like the radio. Like right
Right.
now, we're on here, and my grandma's like, well, why are we going back to the radio? I'm like, well, because people are now dying for conversation. They're trying to get back something that we've lost, which
Yes.
is exactly what I want to be able to do here, which is a good conversation, right? A healthy debate. Rather than just
Civility, civility. There's no civility, and even within myself, I find it. Yesterday, two lesbians. You might know their name. I'm not good with people's names, but they're a couple, and the one woman is a little older. They're both blonde.
I know
You know,
exactly who you're talking about. Yeah.
okay, they get on there and say yesterday, we're unvaccinated and I was like, "What in God's green earth? If we've lost the lesbians, we're in trouble, you know?" So, I wrote them a little snide thing like, "Get educated. Come on, ladies," you know?
Mm.
And then I blocked them because I was so angry, you know? And the little one leaves a video message saying, "We just want to talk. We're lesbian conservatives." I'm like,
Right.
when did this become a cult or a group? Lesbian conservatism? Is there a whole section of that I'm missing?
I don't know when that happened. I don't know when our rights and the progress we have made sometimes somehow reverts back to this. I don't know. And I mean, you guys have a much more right wing political system in general, but it's like people love the words economy. We want our businesses to do well. And unfortunately, I think there's two kinds of people. There's people who feel like if our economy is driving and healthy, everything else will get better. And then there's the second person who knows, like rational people, if our society isn't healthy, if we're not good, if we're not equitable, the economy's always going to be garbage. It's going to be unsustainable. It's going to be oppressive, right? It's never going to carry on. But everybody's so concerned with what's in their pocketbook now.
Yeah. And it's hard to know how this nation will heal the divide
It
because,
is.
I have these neighbors and they're four little kids under the age of 7, four girls,
Right.
and the mother and the father. It was both of them lovely. And they were all playing outside, and then they came in our house and they use our pool. And we go over to their house the first time, and there I see on their wine rack MAGA hats, Make America Great Again. And I literally didn't know what to do. And I didn't see them for a while, like a couple of weeks. And she says, "What happened? I was like, "Do you want to know the truth?
I saw your hats.
I saw your hats." And that made it an unsafe space for me
Hmm.
right away.
What did
And
you say?
And she said, "Oh, Rosie, we have people with all different political beliefs. It's just, we're Persian Jews, and we, agree with what he did in Israel, and there are certain factions that only vote one issue, and it seems as though that's this family because, truthfully, I made an effort to get involved in their life because I didn't want to be like someone who would exclude someone's kindness and disregard all of the positivity that had come from this family and just hold on to my and they voted for that Nazi, you know?
100%.
And I said to them, that's what it feels like. I'm a Jew and that's a swastika. And I
Hmm.
do not ever want I want you to know how serious it is for me. It's not a joke,
Absolutely.
you
I
know?
I have an interesting question for you. Actually, we maybe we'll get to the other stuff later because that's a great. I'm very pro-vaccine. We have vaccine passports up here in order to go certain places, not everywhere. You need to be vaccinated, and a lot of people, from what I understand, not the Jewish community, but a lot of people are comparing or sorry, are comparing vaccine passports and forced vaccinations, and they're saying, oh, well, it's just like Nazi camps.
Like, where are your papers? Right.
Yeah, and I mean, my school, I have had spoken to so many Holocaust survivors. I have never once spoken to somebody who feels that way. But it's like this thing that they get to use where it's like it's supposed to pull on your heartstrings because this was such a horrible thing. But do they understand how much they're diminishing the Holocaust when they
Yeah.
compare it?
Yes.
Like,
They're
do they get
diminishing the Holocaust, exactly. And, there's a certain, group of people who share the belief that the Holocaust is off limits, but I think the Holocaust should be brought up and used as an example when it's applicable, in society so we don't forget. So that
absolutely
all those people, the Shoah Project, the Spielberg brilliance that he did in putting that whole thing together, imagine a legacy like that, you know, um, that is a vital thing. Lee, this little woman older woman that I walk with every day,
adorable? Yeah.
she got out of Poland
Oh wow.
plus her uncle was already emigrated to London, and
Hmm.
she was telling me she remembered when the Nazis came in her she was 5 when they came into her house, and they had a bag and they would just take their stuff, and they were taking their stuff and they took her little travel clock and
Right.
put it in there so when her mother wasn't looking, she went and grabbed it back out and risking death for all of but she was 5,
Right.
and she had these visceral memories that she was still telling me at 87 of escaping Poland at 5 years old. And we can't ever let those memories die. We can't ever let what happened to this country in the last 4 years happen
Hmm.
again, because we were really as close to the ending of democracy as it's possible to come. And if we didn't learn from that lesson of Trump, then I fear for democracy on the whole.
I agree 100% across the board. My question is this: do you think that so? I'm going to put him aside. I don't even like giving him publicity, even saying his name. But do you think? Because I know a lot of people. I mean, he allowed that to propagate. He emboldened people within the United States to get up and march with
He
those.
he encouraged them. Yes, he encouraged
Absolutely.
and he, organized and directed and instigated the insurrection.
Oh,
And, for that, I mean, why they want us, the United States, to deny what we saw live on television.
it's insane.
Right, and then to call that just a normal day of tourism in the United States. It is absolutely batshit crazy.
100%.
Batshit crazy.
It's this it's like he was able to create it when he started, and he came up with that whole, you know the media is lying to you, everything is just an example of the truth, you know what I mean, everything is manipulation. I feel as though, unfortunately, he was setting it up for when he needed to manipulate. So if he said that the media was lying all the time, he was setting it up for when he could actually use that in his defense,
But he's
right?
so dumb that I don't think that there was forethought in what he did. I think, according to Michael Cohen, who is a friend of mine who I met when he was in prison there, he was the one who had written all those horrible things about me. It wasn't Trump. He's not the
Right.
comedy writer of the right. It was Michael Cohen coming up with these disses. And,
Mhm.
so when I sort of reached out to Michael Cohen to thank him for turning state's evidence against Trump, he wrote back meekly and said, "You realize I'm the one who did that to you." I said, "I do. And I realize that, and I forgive you, because
Wow.
what you've done by being the closest person to him to tell the truth is going to save the country." And now what's coming out with the generals having to call China and say, "Don't worry, we've taken him off the button." I mean, they essentially did that.
Mhm.
They knew he was crazy enough that they had to call other countries to go, "We know he's crazy, and we will not attack you. I am the one in charge," said that general.
Do
You
you
know?
do you worry about what he tapped into in the United States?
Oh my god, yes.
Yeah.
every worst human instinct,
Yeah.
every pretense, every fallacy, every used car salesman slash showbiz executive. I blame Mark Burnett, the man who created The Apprentice, because he took a lie and made it the truth. And he
Yeah.
made it the number one selling show in America. It got higher grades, the finale, or viewers rather, than the Super Bowl. It
Hmm.
was for 6 years or so the number one show that everyone watched. And,
Right.
um, he convinced the vast majority of these people, at least 50%, that everything he said about Trump was real. And in actuality, they didn't even have a boardroom at Trump Enterprises before Mark Burnett showed up and made a fake one with walls you could take down in the hallway. And,
Right.
he was sold as the truth by a man who knew he was a lie. And how does that guy sleep at night?
it's it's all fake news, right? It's like that he was built upon that premise. He took the worst of Hollywood. Have you ever seen the movie Wag the Dog?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so every time I think about Trump, I think about that movie because I really and it's the whole in that movie. The president was secondary to the action too, because it was never him, right? He wasn't smart enough, and he was in trouble all the time. It was everybody around him that was able to manipulate and create this false illusion for people to buy into. And the scary part is it's all premised in fear,
Yes.
right?
Yes. And we always only have two choices, faith or fear. In
Hmm.
every situation you can break down till that's it. Are you going to be afraid, or are you going to be have faith? And I mean that in the most totalitarian kind of way. Like, you have to decide what that means to you to have faith, to have hope. It is to me to move forward, to continue to dream, to follow some values that are such your core identity that you have no option but to treat them with respect and hold them high and to your own standard. um it's really uh it's really a difficult spiritual journey that we're all on in these bodies that we get to rent for 60, or if we're lucky like Lee, 90 years.
Right, right. I think that, yeah, and I think that's all incredibly true. And I think going back to the platform, the TikTok platform we are on, or even this amazing world of like, I've been a teacher for almost 20 years, and all of a sudden I'm on TikTok doing this. I have a podcast. I'm sitting here talking to you. Like the ability to connect to amazing people and then put that out there, this gives us so much more power than
Yes,
we've ever had before.
I agree. And you think what TikTokers did to that first debate that he was going to, and in his big rally. I mean, when that happened, I was like, let me look into TikTok, because
Ex-
I really thought that was pretty damn good.
And
And
then what he did to Texas,
yeah,
right?
right. I was thinking this, and then they freed Britney Spears. They really did. They took her out of really bondage and imprisonment, and it was her fans who would not give up, who would this community of people here that I think if it wasn't during the pandemic, TikTok would never have exploded the way it did. It
No,
was everyone at their most lonely, their most vulnerable, their most needy of connections, of human connections. And you can make a facsimile of it here on TikTok. But
mhm.
it's not quite until you meet the person in person. It's not quite, quite there.
But what an amazing start. I mean, when I was before this whole pandemic, obviously I was a teacher and kids would come up, Joanna, did you see this TikTok? I'm like, stop showing me insanity. I can't stop, like with the phones and I don't want to see it, right? And then I'm locked in my own house by myself. And all of a sudden I'm like, fine, fine. And I tapped into, and I know there's a lot of hate on TikTok and there can be some bad elements, sometimes people like you get shadow banned. What was that about? And
No.
but there's such great people on
I
this app.
agree. I agree. I have met some amazing people, and I've, watched and not even necessarily participated in some others that I just follow their story. And,
Mhm.
it's really a touching, heartwarming kind of human exchange that, and I find myself sometimes, if it's at night and Dakota's asleep and I'm sitting here and I go through and there's somebody crying, saying I'm not going to make it. I'm like, okay, let's see what we could do to, you don't know, sending a little thing, a message of encouragement, and if it's from someone that they enjoy, that makes it all that much better. And I feel a responsibility with it. Like I don't feel a casualness with it. And that's why at the beginning, when I first started, all I did was watch people screaming, "Oh my God, it's Rosie O'Donnell!" For the first 6 months, because it
Right.
was so intense that people sort of did that and created that Rosie freaking O'Donnell out of nowhere.
Roast freak. Yeah, well, but it's amazing because it's a different celebrity. Like, back in the day, if you think of like old school, like Katharine Hepburn and those lovely old school, and then you think about how closed off they were from the public. And then you get paparazzi era, which was horrible because then there was just this one image that you got of celebrities, and it was usually this horrific kind of let's catch them at their worst, at their
Yeah.
most vulnerable, right? And now look at this. So you have anybody who has any desire whatsoever to be authentic, nobody can stand in your way now.
That's why I love it. That's why I said to my, publicist a few years ago, I'm like, you're antiquated. We don't need you now. I can
No.
say what I want to say. I don't have to go call my publicist. And then, there was a time when publicists and studio heads and movie studios could get together and craft an image for you, and where you had to obey the way that they wanted to sell you. And if, you're Rock Hudson and you're queer, or if you're, somebody who has a big political voice, they're not going to want that. They're going to silence you and try to make you fear that you're not going to work again, as if anyone can rob you of your talent by, saying that you're bad. It didn't make sense. Every time I would do something that was controversial, like standing up to Trump or saying that about Trump, I remember before I said that on The View, Joy Behar said, "Are you really going to do that?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Aren't you afraid?" And I said, "Of what? Of
That's it.
Donald Trump saying bad things about me?
Is that
That's
what
what I'm going to be afraid of? That
right.
this old, disgusting, decrepit rapist, serial liar, a child abuse. I mean, I don't know if he was a child abuser, but sure looks like it with his inappropriate incestual nations to his daughter.
Mhm.
That we're all supposed to see and not mention. We're not
Mhm.
supposed to mention that. People go crazy if you mention that. Well, it's pretty creepy from where I sit.
100%. Now, so you're on The View, you're like, that's it, I'm saying it. At that point in your career, because I'm assuming earlier in your career, you would have contemplated what you said and how you said it. You have to be a little bit cognizant of that. Or were you always like, you know what, I'm going to say exactly what I want to say when I want to say it? Or did you get to that point? Because I know as I'm 46 now, I always had a big mouth, but but as I've gotten older, I've gotten way more comfortable in that. You know.
Well, when my show first came on, it was supposed to be Merv Griffin, just an hour of, lovely entertainment people, kind to each other. And I always imagined they'd go out afterwards for a nice meal together,
Right.
Sammy Davis Jr. and Merv Griffin and Toady Fields,
Right.
was
Right.
my dream of what it was like. And I thought showbiz was gonna be just like that I'd get to know Barbara and Bet, and I would, go to their house with Liza on a Saturday, and we'd all sit around the piano and, listen, it didn't happen. There's no
It
like
didn't happen.
what, honey?
It didn't happen. Not once.
Listen, I've been at Liza's parties. I've been at Bette Midler's parties, so I guess it has happened, but it doesn't ever feel like, I would imagine it would feel. But isn't that
Right.
life, Showbiz is a little bit of, Boy George said during Taboo, fame is the impending glittering disaster.
Oh gosh, ain't that the truth?
Yeah.
And it's true on it's just true on so many levels in so many different ways. Like when we think about what goes on in Hollywood, a lot of people separate like Hollywood and the media, and this Facebook thing that's going on right now. And so many people separate them from society, but I really think it's such this amazing, beautiful, horrific, devastating reflection of society. I
Mhm.
don't know if it's much different.
Well, my brother Eddie always used to say when they would complain about celebrities online, he'd say, "Well, you know what? If you were working at the gas station, the guy in the garage was giving you just as much trouble as," you know what I'm saying? That it was a microcosm of just a societal and personal interrelationships in a confined space,
Mhm.
enough to make a sitcom, right? You know,
Absolutely. It just wasn't televised. It wasn't on the front of the paper. So
right.
so you didn't see it like that, and you think that they live such different interesting lives, but really it's very, very reflective, you know?
And
And
some want to put on that illusion. Like I never bought into the showbiz, like you have to be glamorous and you have to be, made up. And I didn't really buy into it. I mean, at the beginning of my career, I think I had to. Sometimes I see myself with long hair and on the show, and I'm like, wow, that was a long time ago. Like it almost feels like a different me. But you
Right.
have to realize that's half my life ago, right?
Yeah,
I'm going to be 60. That's, 30 years is pretty big chunk, right? From
absolutely.
there to here. But people like to live in the illusion of Hollywood, but I don't. I love when people say, "You mean she just knocked on your door, Lee, and asked to walk?" Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And you mean you actually go to the grocery store? Yep. And you fill up your own car with gas? Yep. And you answer your own Twitter and YouTube? Yeah, I do. That's
Mhm.
me. As somebody thinks, people will say to me, "Oh, Madonna doesn't write her own TikTok." I'm like, "Yes, she does. She does."
Oh, of course she would.
Everyone thinks that it's this big machine that everyone, but your life is so it's so typical with just gross exaggerations in some areas.
Mhm.
It's gross exaggeration. It's like limitless. You have a limitless feeling that for an adult is really intoxicating. I think for a kid is earth-shattering. It's hard to find your equilibrium when you're in the midst of that, and, everyone in the family is involved in it, and you're getting on a private plane, and there's paparazzi outside, and did you
Yeah.
have the life vest on Parker when you went in the boat because they took a picture, and now they're saying you're a bad mother, and, like, you're living in a constant swirl, like, of a snow globe,
Yeah,
and it
absolutely.
never really calms down enough for you to, um have a clear perspective.
When do you think that happened for you?
My children are now throwing notes under my door.
That's amazing.
Dakota? Okay, if somebody's out there, they're listening, but that's all right with me. Uh, I think it's Dakota trying to listen because
Oh,
she knew I was on the computer, so she got
oh.
all excited. Sorry, where was I?
When did that happen for you? When did you get a little bit more of an equilibrium? When could you step back and say, "This is who I am. This is what I want, and to heck with everything else"?
It took a long time after I left my show,
Yeah.
but I felt a freedom when I left my show. I felt like, my book had come out and 9/11 had just happened in, September, and then in, March, my book came out that talked about me being gay and, me having partner with Kelly at the time,
Right.
um, and it didn't really make a splash as it shouldn't. We were all still in shock over 9/11, and, I remember a few months after that book came out being free and walking down the street with headphones on and thinking, "I don't have anywhere to go. I don't have anything to do. And this is what freedom is really like." Now, I'm not saying that a job like I had is, imprisoning of it's just it's a lot.
Yeah.
Like when you go in the big surf, sometimes those surfers don't come out.
Right. You get
And, for me, I went out there and I surfed for 6 years and I got my ass back to the shore, because it's dangerous out there
it is,
and
and
you
I
lose perspective.
I feel like, and that you talked about it like it was this nice persona, and they had a very particular vision for what your show was going to be, and then you'd get a guy like Tom Selleck on there, and you could see every fiber of your political being saying, "I can't let it go. I should let it
Well,
go."
I said to them before he was on,
Hmm.
I said to my talent bookers, we'll do 2 full segments instead of 1 for his movie,
Right,
and in the second one, we're gonna discuss the NRA because this was May of, 99, so that
right.
was
Oh,
1 month after it happened,
right.
and he had just come out with an ad that said, "I'm Tom Selleck. The NRA teaches children good values."
Like,
And I said, "This is your face. You give it to them. You support what they do. Why can't they stop assault rifle? Why can't they?" And it didn't seem to me that much of a heated conversation, but comparatively to how the conversations had always gone up to that point, it was a very different tone and a different sort of part of me. And, just as valid as the happy kind of,
absolutely.
and just as big inside of the trivial pursuit pieces of your psyche, of your personality, of your soul.
Mhm.
Each one is pretty much the same size as
Right,
you
right,
fill up those sections for what they matter for
right.
you: art, children, theater, love, light, the water, the ocean. These are all family, these are all the things that I put in my little trivial pursuit thing.
Yeah.
And I've always known that those were the things that I valued.
Hmm. Yeah, you saw it. I mean, I watched a few of those things back, and then I watched some clips from The View, and it's just like those conversations and those moments, and you stayed right here with it, and I really do emulate that in a lot. Like, I can get some people saying some silly things about me, and I truly believe that no matter what comes at me, what kind of craziness, whether it's anti-vax stuff, whether it's am I a boy or a girl or whatever that ridiculousness is, but for you to stay this calm, I just feel as though there's always extremists that are never going to hear you,
Right.
but most people are somewhere in the middle. And if you catch that person somewhere in the middle, and you do it gently with love and empathy, but firmly, you can just give them a little bit of a shove.
I had a radio show and I really loved doing it. And one time when the war was just starting in Afghanistan, and I was against it, and went on some political talk shows with no war on my clothes, like people used to do in the 60s. And
Back in the day, right?
right. And I had a radio caller that called in and said, you know, "You said that our men are terrorists." I said, "No." I said, "I
Oh, I
want
remember
you,
that.
yeah, I want you to really think about who's occupying whose land, who's there, who sent them in. If someone had, there's a wonderful documentary called To Die in Jerusalem. This is a
Mhm.
little bit of a tangent, but it's 2 women who were killed, one Israeli and one Palestinian. The Palestinian was a suicide bomber, was the first female suicide
Wow.
bomber.
Okay.
And she put on a vest and went into this thing and blew herself up, and only killed one Israeli girl. And they were the same height, the same hair, the same, so that they didn't know which body parts went to which person when they were both dead. And this filmmaker got their mothers, both of their mothers, to tell their story.
Wow.
And the mother in Palestine was saying her brother was shot dead in front of her, and by Israeli troops. And we're put in ghettos here, and talking all about the reality of even making the documentary when she wasn't allowed because her daughter had died as a suicide bomber. The mother wasn't allowed to ride on the buses, or she couldn't get a pass to go out of the community, and then there was the mother from the other side in Israel who had so much kind of warmth and compassion, but couldn't quite see the other side at all. And I think that's generational trauma tattoo on the soul. It's
Absolutely.
generations and generate that they won't be able to see that, you
Mhm.
know? Everyone's screaming that they should make peace there and they should acknowledge each other as people. And, I think sometimes the wounds are too big to do that, you
It's
know?
so true. It's so I mean, I talk about the partition, I talk about forced migration, I talk about the creation of Israel and all of those things with my students, and I'll have Jewish students, I'll have Muslim students, Palestinian, and they will all say, "Yeah, but Joanna, which side do you support?" I'll say, "I support both. I support healthy, happy like a transmission into something else." I said, of course, you can support the state of Israel and still worry about those ghettos you're talking about and still listen to the Palestinian mother explain what her daughter went through that put her in that situation. And it's all so sad and so complicated. And I feel as though, and going back to our original subject, you have horrific politicians simplifying it to facilitate rage and empower themselves. And it all it does is make everything worse.
Make everything worse, without a doubt. And, the politicians, the Republicans right now aren't even a party. They're just the believers in the lie. And how we're ever going to wake them from the cult that they are in with all of this Tucker Carlson bullshit. That guy should be
Oh,
arrested. I mean, what is he doing besides inciting people every single night?
I just, I don't understand. Well, I mean, I have a long list of those people. That you have Tucker, you have guys like Ben Shapiro, you have guys even on the lower spectrum like Joe Rogan or Jordan Peterson, who's a Canadian. We don't really want to claim him, but you have these individuals propagating this, and I don't understand. I keep flashing back to the show Newsroom. Did you ever see Newsroom?
Yes.
Right? I feel like there's nothing more poignant than that show. This idea that news has become entertainment. And the moment it became entertainment and the moment they had to get paid for it, you get guys like Tucker Carlson. And there's no more news left. Where do you see the news anymore?
Well, the news is irrelevant. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't really matter. Somebody will tell you an event that happened, and then everyone will pick the narrative that they want following that little ingestion of salacious material. Like all this stuff about that Gabby girl who was killed, and her boyfriend, everyone looking for the boyfriend. Like, you don't even hear the story now on the news, really. Pretty much it was a meteor. It flashed brightly in front of all of our eyes and then disappeared. And, it distracted us from all the other things, but it did force sort of people to look at the amount of indigenous women that are missing and killed every year, the amount of Hispanic women, women of color. Um, you know, that was, I think, a really strong rallying point around her disappearance. The one benefit that could come from this was for people to see that not only the blonde, white, pretty girls are worth investigating.
Absolutely. And it goes back, I mean, you have this whole Facebook thing blowing up right now, and everybody's talking about, oh, well, Facebook is all about propagating, the negative and the divisive and the controversial. And when I heard her rendition, I can't remember her name right now, the whistleblower, when I heard her rendition, I'm listening to her and I'm like, it, who, this isn't news, right? Did anybody think Facebook wasn't doing this? And has anybody watched Fox lately? Like, this is going on everywhere. I said the other day to my students, if it bleeds, it leads. And my students looked at me and were like, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, that's been the news for a very long time, right? The more salacious yellow journalism's been around since the 1800s. If we can exaggerate it, if we can make it more salacious and more interesting, and even if we have to lie just a little bit, but we're going to sell papers or we're going to sell the whatever. This is a reflection, I think, unfortunately, of what we're consuming.
Yes, and it's really who's in power. We what we consume media wise, it has to do with who's the head of the studios.
Right.
No, and Mark Zuckerberg, what we were consuming there, he made a deal with Trump.
Right.
He made a
Exactly.
deal with Trump. Mark Zuckerberg made a deal with Trump. That has to be illegal.
It has. I don't understand in my core how it's not, and how it's not just crystal clear. Um, that it's frustrating to watch these things play out, and for people to pretend to take a side when I'm like, there's no side to take here, guys. This
There
is
really isn't. There's no side to take.
it's clear as day. And and then I start to think about what we consume on TV. And I thought, okay, so we're all on Facebook trading barbs, and sometimes that's what TikTok is. And TikTok will pump out, let's say, did you ever see the couch guy? The guy that everybody thought was cheating on his girlfriend? Did you see that TikTok?
No.
Okay, so a girl walks in to surprise her boyfriend and she's filming it, and he has his arm around another girl, and he quickly does one of these and then goes over and says hi. And people have watched that video 3 million times,
Wow.
dissecting it frame by frame to find out if this guy was cheating. And it's not the video that's necessarily the issue. It's what we just did, right? Like the way
In terms of, it's what we just did in terms of being obsessed with the little snippet we were given.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And the drama and the controversy, I mean, I like The
Did
Bachelor
the
just as much.
woman did the woman put in what happened after or no?
I don't know. Well, I think she played it up like he was, because she's trying to get views, right? So I think she played it up like that. The guy has come on in TikTok and like said, guys, can you please get out of my business? Like, you have no idea what you're talking about. But then I start thinking about, we have shows like The Bachelor where we wait for the women to fight. Like, we wait,
It's the worst
right?
show ever on TV. I remember being on The View and thinking, or my own show, and saying, when it was only The Bachelor, it hadn't been The Bachelorette yet. I said,
Right.
and if it was reversed and there was a Bachelorette, she'd just be the whore, right?
There it is.
There it is. And I said that on TV.
Yep. Well, but but that's the truth. That's the truth. Those are the categories that we put people in still to this day. And again, like, it comes down to what we want, what we demand, and then it's fed to us in order for whoever to make money on it. But so I think the change, and I see such amazing things, and I think the change, it starts with these amazing people that now have nobody can control this, maybe to some extent, but they really can't, right? The
Right.
gatekeepers have been locked out of the room.
Yeah.
You want to sing a song and Sony tells you to piss off because they don't like your look, or they think you're too gay, or they think you're too this. You know what? Go put it on TikTok. Watch when Sony comes knocking at your door because it just blew up there, right? And these
Right.
gatekeepers of art, it's kind of beautiful. You kind of watch them crumble a bit and then come back around begging to be a part of whatever's going on. You
Yeah. I,
see?
I, I think that, I try to consume art in big chunks of things that are great, like Succession. Right?
Mhm.
That show is so beautifully written. The complications of a family like a Murdoch family,
Right.
how they made up this world or universe, or maybe it's quite accurate. I don't really know, but it's so entertaining and it's so nourishes your soul. It awakens something in the human spirit that they have captured and put on the screen. Same with Hacks. Same with Ted Lasso.
Hax was just like, she is so funny.
Yes.
She is so funny. And
And
for
she's
her, at
been going through such pain. Her husband just died, her husband of many years, and 6 months ago, and she's in the middle of this series, and it's really it is another beautiful show. It's just beautiful when everything merges together and it combines and it's beautiful. Then that's art. And I always think this key to my success is I know how to consume art, you know? And when I'm depressed, when I'm down, when the world gets to be too much for me, that's what I do. I put on Sunday in the Park with George. I go see Hamilton. I watched The Way We Were. Like, I try just to
Right.
consume it to keep me afloat, for especially when I see shit like misogynistic, ridiculous The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. Both of them are ridiculous. Who thinks that antiquated way that you're going to find your love in a paradise island and it's going to
Right.
last forever? I mean, I don't watch that, but there are phases where things like I remember when Survivor was exciting, when you
Yeah.
were people don't even know it's on, but it's still on. I saw it last week. It was still on.
Right. Right. It's these things that we, you're right. I mean, and it's interesting because we have so much that we can grasp. We have so much that we can hold on to. And it's just like you said at the beginning of this, what we choose to grasp, what we choose to hold on to is going to shape everything that comes thereafter.
Totally. You got to fill up your pizza slices. You got one pie, fill
I
it
also
up.
want to play Trivial Pursuit.
Yes,
Yes.
sure.
So I know that we're running out of time. I want, because I know that you have something else that you have to do after it, but I have 20 kind of rapid fire questions, a little
Ex
bit more on the lighter side. Are you ready?
Yeah, sure.
All right, here we go. Texting or talking?
Talking.
Talking, me too, hands down. Last song, like the last song you downloaded or streamed or really loved.
It's the songs from Inside by Bo Burnham.
Oh, I don't know that.
Bo Burnham did a special on Netflix
Hmm.
where he talks about the fact that it was a pandemic and that for the last 5 years he had quit performing live because of his panic attacks while he was on stage. So he
Wow.
created this show and he was about to tour it and the pandemic hit. So instead, he created the whole show in one room, and he did all the lighting, the writing, the directing, the editing. It
Wow.
is a work of genius. It got nominated for an Emmy but did not win. It should have won. It's one of the most magnificent pieces of art that I've seen in the last 30 years, and it's called Inside.
I'm going to
And
watch it.
yeah, you're going to love it.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Invisibility or super strength? I think this says a lot about invisibility.
Invisibility. Come on.
Everybody's choosing that one. First celebrity crush. If
Kate
you
Mulgrew.
Nice choice.
Yeah,
Favorite
Mary Ryan on Ryan's Hope.
Ryan's Hope. Oh, I missed that show. Favorite junk food.
Taco Bell.
Love it. Favorite childhood cartoon.
Magilla Gorilla.
Oh, what a good. I thought you were contractually obliged to say the Flintstones, but I love your
Magilla Gorilla for sale.
it's amazing. This is a hard one. Would you rather cuddle a baby penguin or a baby panda bear?
Panda Bear.
Panda bear. Godfather or Star Wars?
Star Wars.
What's your favorite car? If you have a favorite car.
My kids have a joke and it's not really funny, but it's true. So, it's mildly hurtful. Every car that I've ever liked and or purchased ends up on the ugliest cars ever. So, like the first car I had was like a Gremlin, and and then I had a Pacer with the
Nice,
bubble back, and I had a Peachy Cruiser. I had the Honda Element.
right?
I had one of the Pontiac Aztec, which came with a camper in the back.
I remember that car.
Yeah, so I every ugly car that I like
That's where
is
you're going.
that's where I go. Yeah,
All right, all right. On a scale of 1 to 10, this is hard. Are you ready?
yeah.
How good are you at wiffle ball?
7.
A 7. All right. Ask permission or beg for forgiveness?
Beg for forgiveness.
Favorite TV show all time?
Mary Tyler Moore.
Of course. How did I know you? I don't think I've even heard you say that, but I knew you were going to say that. Favorite carnival food?
Oh boy, cotton candy.
Nice choice. All right. Rate your karaoke. I can't even speak. From your skills from 1 to Mariah Carey.
Wow, I would say I'm a 19.
A ni- Favorite movie all time?
Sound of Music.
Sound of Music. Scale of one. I feel like this is going to be a good one. Scale of 1 to 10. How good are you at trivia?
I used to be a 10. Now I'd say I'm like an 8
Well, what
because
if we
I don't
play with the old
remember as
eight?
many. I don't remember what I used to. Like I'll watch this woman on TV. I'm going, oh my God, I know her. Oh my God, I've worked with her. Oh my God, who is she? Like I can't even remember people that I've worked with. So I would say, not good on the memory.
Not good in the memory. This is a hard one. You ready? I know your answer to this, but my answer is going to be opposite. If you could push a button, I don't even know where I found this question, and you could make everybody in the world 7% happier, but there would be no more hair care products for the entire world. Would you press the button?
Totally.
Of course you would. See, I can't. This is the money. I gotta keep. I can't. People
Yeah,
are
but
gonna.
you could come up with something natural that would do that. You could take aloe
You
and
think?
yeah, come
Oh,
on.
what?
We
Just
could
put
take
aloe in my hair?
Yeah, take some aloe from the plant, do this, and then it'll stick up fine.
I'm not joking you. I'm gonna go get a plant, and my next TikTok, I'm putting aloe in this, and we're gonna see how it all plays out.
All right.
Favorite TV or movie quote?
Um, TV or movie quote. Well, I have one from a musical.
Hit
Does
me.
that count?
Of, I think so. Yes. Is it gonna be? Are you gonna sing it?
No. And
Oh,
must my name until I die be more than just an alibi? Must I lie? How will I ever face my fellow man? How will I ever face myself again? My soul belongs to God, I know. I made that bargain long ago. He gave me hope when hope was gone. He gave me strength to carry on. Who am I? I'm Jean Valjean. It's from Les Miserables.
wow. That's and that was it. You knew that. I get goosebumps over here.
Yeah, I love that show.
That's amazing. I feel like there's moments in TV and movies. I mean, obviously I love both. Half of my whole bottom arm is tattooed with just TV and movie quotes because I find that there's so much and to some people it sounds superficial, but I find so much depth in something that can touch you for such a long period of time and apply in so many different ways. I mean, the quote you just said was, amazing, but even in shorter quotes where it changes who you are because you experience that and then you pulled it out and you can apply it.
Well, the first thing that came to mind was I hate spunk. Ed Asner saying that to Mary
Very
Tyler
kind
Moore.
of more.
Right, I hate spunk. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really think of TV quotes like that, but musicals I can tell you a million from Les Mis to Hamilton to Evita to Pippin. All every musical has had a song that left me weak in the knees.
I think when I saw Rent, um, it was like I play that song if I feel bad, if I'm in any kind of mood, and my kids will see. I'll do it at school. I'll do it loud in my classroom before the day starts. You play that 525,600 minute song, and
Yeah.
that's it. Everything about me changes. Everything softens, everything changes, and the perspective is just so incredibly powerful. I
Yes.
mean, you're a New Yorker, so you live right next to Broadway. You get to see them all firsthand. We got to wait a minute in Toronto to get them, out here.
Yeah, but you get a lot of great ones up in Toronto. Some great shows start up there in Toronto and then come down and I mean, I wouldn't I went to Toronto a couple times to see shows. Joni
Yeah.
Mitchell was performing there and I
Wow.
went and saw her. But I love flying up to Toronto. I think it's a wonderful little hamlet in the world where it's like a calmer, happier New York City.
Listen, only a New Yorker would call Toronto a hamlet. That's all.
To me, it's a little hamlet.
There's a tiny little hamlet of Toronto. This tiny little. All
Yes.
right, this last one's harder. Ready? You
Ready.
can have 6 guests come to dinner, dead or alive. Who do you invite?
Matilda Krim, who was the head of Amphar for many years, and she
Oh, wow.
died 4 or 5 years ago. And I always loved and respected her, and she was a friend, and she's just so. Uh, she was extraordinary in every way. I would say Eleanor Roosevelt, Harriet Tubman, um, Joni Mitchell, and Gloria Steinem.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that would be a nice table. I think that if you could get that table together, I'm pretty sure that's the revolution right there.
Well, I would follow those women anywhere. So
That's
yes,
amazing. Well, I know that you're running, I know you have another,
I got another one of these.
you have a lineup.
I do. I say yes, and I always want to follow through and try to be prepared and ready. So I
Oh,
was like panicking. I'm like, "Where's the number?" Sorry, I was late. But keep
oh,
doing what you do. I love watching you, and I'm glad I'm getting to know you. And I'd love to, find out more about you. I went to Pittsburgh to shoot League of Their Own, TV show. I was a bartender that owned the bar in town.
oh, very cool.
Yeah, and I was Pittsburgh. What was I telling you about Pittsburgh?
Is that where you went and met up with that
Oh
TikToker?
yes, I met up with the girl from TikTok, Big
Mhm.
Sexy.
Yeah, yeah.
Her name is Kelsey, but her
Yes.
moniker is that, and her mother. And it was just, when you meet someone and you feel like you've known them forever, and sometimes even on TikTok, you get somebody's vibe and you go, "Whoa, that's one of my people."
Absolutely.
And I got to meet her, which was so nice. And I know some little groups, because I find TikTok a little bit clicky. Some of the little clicky groups are getting together for, you know, come in October and meet me, and it's Halloween. And who else is doing that? I just saw Paige from Georgia. Did you see that she came out as a Trumper?
No, it's Georgia.
She came out as a Trumper.
Oh, Paige. I feel like that, like she's young, right? She's super young. I don't know who's surrounding her. She's grown up in a very, I'm just gonna guess, a very, and I'm just assuming here, in a very particular demographic and I think if as she's the kind of person, she's the kind of person that's sitting here, and you just got to give her a little bit of a love and just a bit of a push. I honestly believe
Felt
that.
that I felt that too towards her, like a big sister, like on the softball team that I was a senior and she was a freshman, and I
Right.
just wanted to go, "Come here, kid. Let me show you how to do a double play," right? And but then when I found out she's a trumper, it all dissipated for me. I thought I do not want to engage.
Yeah, well, I wonder. I always wonder who's in their lives.
Yeah.
I always wonder. She's a young, obviously she's gay and she's from that, and I wonder who's in her life that's gearing her that way and what she has to do to survive, maybe where she is. You know, I'm very lucky. Look, Toronto, the hamlet that we are. I'm very lucky that I got to grow up here because coming out and, dressing however I dress and my tattoos and whatever, I've got to feel pretty safe, and I love New York. It would, if I had to choose a place in the States to live, that's it. I do like the weather in California, but I am an East Coast kind of girl.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky. I didn't have to grow up in Lincoln, Nebraska. I didn't
You're
have
right.
to grow up.
You're totally right, and me too from New York. It's really something that we'll never know what it's like to grow up gay in the middle of the country. And I have compassion for her in that way. But I don't know, the Trumper thing, I just thought, oh Jesus, let's just
It's
leave it alone.
hard. Yeah, it's really hard, and it's this bastion of freedom, this misrepresentation of freedom and what that means and who's wielding it and how they're wielding it. And I just think some people who maybe haven't stepped out of, I think she's from Macon, Georgia. You haven't stepped out of there yet. You just don't know yet. I've traveled to a lot of many different, I go to the States all the time. I've traveled most of Europe, parts of Africa. And I mean, I feel like my education's important, but holy crap, bro, like those parts. Being in Tanzania changed my life. I can't even describe it, right? And for a lot of people in the States, especially, they don't leave their town.
Yeah, it's so funny. I have really little desire to see other countries.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I
Why?
have panic when I'm not around my children, when my children are not, like, in the same arena as I am, and I just always am anxious when I go. I've been to Italy, I've been to France, I've been to London, but I'm not someone who loves traveling. I always think if something happened in France, what am I gonna say? I think it could be my gallbladder, but it might be my appendix in French. Like, it's I don't know. I have so much anxiety that people
We
have
all
told
speak
me.
English now.
Yeah, people have told me
You'll
that
be fine. You can say appendix. They'll know what it is. So you
yeah, I don't know. I just don't love it. I mean, my ex-wife Kelly is now a travel agent, and all she ever wanted to do was travel, and I would rather stay in my own house in Miami than go to the Riviera.
in Florida. Are you going over to Florida anytime soon, considering what's going on down there?
Oh, I'm done with Florida after all this. Seriously, I'm done. I moved out to California, and Miami had been my home for 25, 30 years, and I just can't anymore.
Right. I keep playing my favorite movie is Jaws, and when it comes to Florida, I keep playing again and again and again. You're the mayor that wants to keep the beach open. All I can think about is that quote, and it's just like you're just going to let your people die. You're fine with that. Just let them. Why? Because I want to make money. Because this is summer money. And I'm like, did anybody see the movie in 1975? Like, this is a
Right.
direct correlation.
Definitely, 100%.
They do
And
have
that's what
gay
I felt with Trump too. I felt that's
Yeah.
what he was doing. He wanted to keep the beach open and his illusion open, and this kind of facade that fooled all these people, and anything he could do to antagonize the right-wing militias that adore him,
Mhm.
he would do. And look at January 6th. I mean, the fact that he's not locked up right at this moment is infuriating.
It doesn't make any it makes no sense. The what doesn't make sense isn't even the fact that he got elected, which is in and of itself a conundrum, but the fact that that wasn't clear as day to every single person. It wasn't like it's this thing that happened that wasn't recorded. There are miles of footage showing exactly what happened from start to finish.
Yep.
And this is the reality. And you still have
We
people
saw it
on.
live. We saw it live. Just like the buildings on 9/11, we watched it happen. We watched
It's
it happen with our own eyes.
it's infuriating, and I think it's interesting when you have something this horrific happen in a country, and it propagates such insanity. It is always amazing to me the sometimes the good and the beauty that can come out of it, because people that are good, and there's more of us than not, and people that are smart, and there's more of us than not, all of a sudden say, I can't be quiet anymore. I can't just stand back and let this happen anymore. Right? I can't be a bystander. Speaking of going back to the Holocaust, I can't stand by anymore.
Right.
And you see all of these amazing women like Amanda Gorman, the person that did
Oh,
these.
yes. My
Oh,
And to hear her sit on those talk shows and say, "No, I will be the first female president," or whatever. I will be president of this United States. I was like, and I believe you, you
I'm
know?
getting a t-shirt now. Yes, absolutely. Well, Rosie, thank you so much for coming
Thank
on.
you for having me.
It was
Thank you very much.
absolutely amazing. I
It was really
really do want to come down and have a game of catch. I'm
fun.
just saying.
Okay, I would do it. You're ever in LA, you let me know.
100%. And anytime any new event that you want to talk about, I would, love for you to come back on and talk about anything in current events or anything you find important.
Totally, I would love to.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you to John. Appreciate all your work.
Dismissed.